if you're not fulfilled by what you're doing, it takes a lot of courage to change gears. But I can promise you, if you feel the way you feel today and you don't do anything about it, 10 years from today, you're going to wish you did. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on what to do when you realize you've been living someone else's version of success, navigating the emotional challenge of retiring when your work is who you are, and what to do when you feel the pull to start something completely new.
I want to be a video game designer. I want to write a screenplay. I want to write a children's book. There's all sorts of things that I want to do, but it doesn't necessarily require me to burn it all down.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Here we are, favorite time of every day.
Oh yeah.
Well, not every day, but you know.
Oh yeah. Now listen, we're excited. What were we talking about before we got rolling here? Society. It's screw. When you look at the attention span of most human beings right now, it really is like, you think about, what was that movie? Idiocracy, like, did an amazing job, like the Mike Judge movie, predicting the future, the present, really. Same thing with WALL-E. You know, they're sitting up in those spaceships, slurping their little milkshake, and they just recline back. But I catch myself watching other people when we go to places, like when we were in New York earlier this year, when we were at Disney, and like when we go out to dinner, and I'm always baffled by like the lack of presence that people have wherever they are. So, for example, like when they're at dinner with one another, they're on their phones. Like you're at dinner with your spouse, and you're staring at your phone. And it's not just like, hey, I got to check this email or something. It's like literally the whole time. Then the food comes, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put my phone away for a second to eat. And then once I'm done eating, I'm going to get back on the phone. And then also, this is something we were talking about earlier this week. Like, when did it become work to watch a show?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing, like, to sit there and watch a show or a series that someone describes that as like, oh, that's a lot of work. Like, they're so used to like a TikTok reel or something. I imagine I sound like an old man at this point, but that's just baffling to me. And then you ask them, hey, when's the last time you read a book? Or what's the last book you read? And they're like, what? Audiobook? You're like, no, book. Right? It's like, oh, wow. So anyway, I think it's a fascinating place to be. And I get it, because it's, you get the dopamine hits from all this stuff. I used to be this person to an extent. Like we would sit down in the evening, we'd be watching some show, I'd have my phone there, and then you're checking the phone, you're like, oh, I got any Slacks, I got any emails. This almost seems like I was a different human then, because I now put the phone away. I don't even want to be near this thing when I get home. Like, I'm repulsed by it. Like, you asked me the other night, you're like, hey, can you, like, the girls have this Sonicare app to get to brush their teeth, and it's like this whole interactive thing where like it syncs up with their toothbrush, and it's like they're like, show the toothbrush, brushing their mouth. It's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. And they get all sorts of like awards and prizes for brushing their teeth every night and keeping their little, like,
sparkly
Tamagotchi looking thing alive, right? But I got to get my phone for that. And I'm like, oh man, can we just brush our teeth without it, right? Because I really don't want to get the phone, but I go grab it quickly, we'll brush our teeth for a couple minutes, and then I'm like, get this thing out of here, right? And it's just because I have like this aversion to it. I don't think there's anything good or healthy that comes from the consumption of social media.
No, nothing.
Or that comes from the consumption of news, right? Watching like Crisis News Network, like reading the news, watching the news, hearing about some atrocity. And it's not even about like keeping a pulse on what's going on in the world. It's just, it's so much negativity. You look at that like mental nutrition. I find that your life gets so much less negative, and you probably get much more energized when you're not spending your time consuming these things. So what's fascinating to me is that what a lot of people don't understand is when you're no longer like scrolling and doom scrolling on your phone, and you're no longer sitting there watching the news, you'll find other ways to occupy your time, which might come in the form of like taking walks or reading books or being more present with your kids. And once you do that, you're like, wow, why was I wasting my time doing all this other stuff? It's just fascinating that, but it can be rebuilt. What's a good way to do it? You can do like a electronics or phone free weekend, which I know might seem hard to a lot of people, but earlier this year, our daughter did a couple things. We had to discipline her, and she lost the iPad for what started was a week, and then 2 weeks, and then I just got so silly. I got like frustrated. I wasn't frustrated at her, but I was like, you know what? I'm frustrated at the iPad.
Yeah.
No iPad until your 7th birthday.
This was months ago. It's been the best thing ever.
It's been the best.
Yeah.
So like the first week was kind of rough, and the second week was like a little, still kind of rough. But now she doesn't even ask about it.
No.
She doesn't ask about it. She will like do puzzles. She'll play with her sister. Like they'll create Legos. They got the little magnet tiles. Like they're just doing other things that occupy their time. They don't even reach for the iPad anymore. It's almost like an addiction that you have to wean off of.
Truly.
But there's so much that can be gained by just being present where you are and like experiencing the moment where you are. And I would encourage you, as we're approaching Thanksgiving, to just, when you're sitting at that table, see if you can do the entire Thanksgiving dinner, maybe that whole day, without your phone. And just see what that's like. Be like, look, for one day, can I be grateful for the people that I'm around and how I'm spending my time? Like the phone will still be there. I promise you at the end of the day, it'll still be there for you. And what are you going to do? You're going to go on social media and see pictures of everybody else's food? Like this is the strangest thing. When people are trying to like outshine each other, who's got the better turkey and who's got the better, like it's just so like, look what we ate today. And it's just, I guess that's such an American thing.
Totally.
Like, here's a picture of our dinner table,
turkey,
right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like, what would we do if we didn't make a post on social media? I saw somebody the other day, I won't say who it was, and they were posting photos of them on a private jet. And then I texted you, I'm like, if you don't post a picture of you flying private, did you really fly private, right? If you didn't let everybody know just how small of a pizzle you have, like, could you actually carry on your day? And then my lost our producer. I don't know. That's the first thing I think when I see that. I'm like, insecurity. But to each their own. Let people do whatever they want. If they want to have the attention span of a goldfish and doom scroll their whole life, and listen, God bless them. There's a part of me that just lets, if you're an adult, do whatever you want. Just don't touch the kids. So with that, this is the AMMA.
It was a grand opening. Yeah. That really was.
Yes, it was. We'll see if we can keep it all in there. Something you may notice about this podcast is we don't run any ads on this show, and that's so we can do exactly what we just did. We just say whatever we want, right? And our guests can do the exact same thing and come on here unfiltered and say whatever we want, because we find that, I don't know, there's people who listen to this podcast that may enjoy it, and I'm sure there's some that this turns off and maybe they won't listen to this podcast. But for each group of people that like it or love it, we don't run ads for you. So this is the AMMA, where you guys submit your questions and we answer them here on the show. You can text us if you have questions you would like to have us answer on the show at 404-531-7691. And this is one of a few different episodes on the show. We got the traditional interview format, the encore editions. We bring back some of our most popular episodes, but this is the AMMA, kind of in a Thanksgiving mood, themed out. So Jessica, what are the questions? What do we have this week?
I can't promise that they'll be Thanksgiving themes, but here we are. All right. Question number 1. Michael, I'm 42 years old and I just realized I've been living someone else's version of success. I went to law school because my parents wanted me to, built a practice doing work that's respectable but doesn't excite me, and I'm good at it, but I don't care about it. I look at my life and I genuinely don't know if any of this is what I actually wanted or if I just went on autopilot following the path that was expected of me. Is it too late to figure out who I actually am and what I actually want?
Nope. Next question. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think this actually, there might be a way to even work it into what we were just talking about, because ultimately you get one life, and you're too old here in your 40s. I think that's extremely young. Colonel Sanders didn't come out with the recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken until his 70s or 80s, right? I mean, as the story goes. But you've got a lot of life ahead of you. We talked about this yesterday, in fact, in the sense that, you used to watch movies growing up as a kid, and you see like these teenage movies, right, back when we had attention spans, and you'd see like the kids and then their parents, and the parents would be considered old. And then you'd say, okay, how old are those parents? In the movies, they're like in their 30s, but they look like what a 60 or 70-year-old looks like today. Old, big glasses, like old cane, right? And you're like, what? Like, this is the parent of a high school kid, right?
Yeah.
So No, you're not too old. You got a lot of life ahead of you. If you want to look at it just, let's say, even objectively, lifespans are increasing to the point where I believe if you're in your 40s now, we're likely to probably live to like our 120s, 130s, and that's being conservative. What you're seeing, and especially with like longevity research, it is incredible how long we will live. So you're probably even at like the 33% point. You're not like at the 50% mark. And then again, it's your life. So if you're not fulfilled by what you're doing, it takes a lot of courage to change gears. But I can promise you, if you feel the way you feel today and you don't do anything about it, 10 years from today, you're going to wish you did.
Yeah.
Okay. You would have wished you would have started earlier. And again, easy said by some guy on a podcast to tell you how to live your life, but you submitted the question, you asked it. And I would say that if you hate what you're doing, you're not fulfilled by it, you don't feel like it's really you, and none of these things are your choices. I mean, look, first of all, take some responsibility. Okay. I will also say that, like, you can blame your mommy and your daddy for steering you this way. Like my parents, for example, they wanted me to be, a doctor, immigrant parents. Doctor, go to school, take the MCAT, go to medical school, and then I rebelled against that. And like, look, there was like some rough patch, for a few years as I was, starting the business and didn't have a whole lot to show for it. But I was following my true path, right? Then what I felt was, it's kind of hard to describe from the standpoint that, we're wired how we're wired. And I wanted to be strong and self-reliant, which kind of led me down the route of entrepreneurship. And for me, it, very easily could have not worked out, right, early on. This is a long-winded way of saying, no, you're not too old to start over, but you're not really starting over because you also carry with you all the experiences and the wisdom that you've gained to that period in point in time. And I have a buddy of mine I grew up with who also, he actually went to medical school, didn't want to go to medical school, didn't want to be a doctor, but he went to medical school, got his MD, also got his MBA, and now he works for a phenomenal organization where he doesn't have to be he doesn't have to do any doctor stuff, but his MD, MBA really helps him because he sits on the board of that organization. So I know all sorts of people took a different path.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that got a degree in college are not doing anything with that degree. They're in a completely different field. I mean, Jess, you were an engineer, right?
Far from it today.
I'd look at it less as about starting over and more about pivoting towards something that lights you up, or perhaps you have a unique strength in something you enjoy. And if there's not any tremendous downside, you could say, oh, money, right? Like maybe you're in a situation where you can't just like start over or rather start over and make this pivot, right? Because the firm is the way in which you're generating cash flow. Well, then figure out a way to be able to not be as reliant on that, or put, it's so easy to say, put some systems in place and hire some people and do that sort of thing. But ultimately, as Bill Perkins would say, you really got to employ like a regret minimization framework and think about that truly, truly, truly. If you were on your deathbed looking back, would you regret having gone for it and pursued something that may lit you up and you were passionate about, even if you didn't have a 100% rate of success, or sit there on your deathbed and have the regret of never having tried? Because you know the current path, you can continue down it, right? You know how miserable it makes you. So I can promise you 10 more years of it is going to make you more miserable, or at the very least, equal miserable.
Yeah.
So
not any less
what do you have to lose, right?
That's for sure. All right, question number 2. Hey, Michael, I'm 67 years old and starting to think about retirement, but I'm having a really hard time with it emotionally. I've been a trial attorney and a business owner for 35 years. It's not just what I do, it's who I am. When I imagine closing my practice or retiring, I feel this sense of panic about losing my identity. What do successful attorneys actually do after they retire? I can't imagine just playing golf for the rest of my life.
All right, so successful, everybody has a definition of success. Let's be careful with that word. But I will say that the attorneys that I know that are like happy in retirement knew exactly what they would do once they retired. So meaning that they already had that next like act lined up for themselves, right? And it didn't just mean golf, but whatever it was, they knew that once they stopped practicing law, here's how I will be spending my time. They didn't retire and then figure it out, because the most unhappy people that either unretired or were miserable in retirement were the ones that simply just needed a break, right? And they realized that, because in their mind, they're like, look, man, if I can retire, I'm going to be on the golf course every single day. And initially they were, and then they got, that got pretty repetitive. It's like, how long can you go on vacation for? And some people listening to this might think, oh man, I could be on vacation for a long time. Okay, a month, 2 months,
right.
3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But at some point, human beings are wired in a way where we have to be engaged. We have to do something that creates some level of purpose for us. So if you don't know how you're going to spend your time, you're going to start spending it like doom scrolling, sitting on the couch, like eating a bunch of junk food, and then like you just go to waste, right? That's the expression that when you retire, you expire. So I would look at it more so from the standpoint that if you don't know exactly how you will spend your time once you retire, then maybe reconsider retirement. And then also, retire from what? It sounds like you enjoy what you're doing. So if you enjoy what you're doing, maybe there's another way to think about this. We see this with a lot of our firms, is that if you really love what you're doing, so there's a lot of people that love being trial attorneys and they love practicing law. There's just aspects of running a law firm that they may not enjoy. They don't enjoy dealing with the people, the drama, like they may not enjoy hiring, they may not enjoy creating systems and processes and, managing P&L statements like this. But if those things were off your plate and you could do just the things that you love,
right,
would you still want to retire from that? And then often the answer is, well, no. If I could do the things that I love doing every single day, and that occupies the majority, if not the entirety of my entire day, then I would have nothing to retire from.
Right.
So then it really becomes a conversation of what do you have to do to get those things off your plate? And whether that involves delegation, whether it involves hiring, whether it involves automation, because you can create that type of life for yourself, as you should. That's what you should be working towards regardless of retirement or not, to be in a position where the majority of the things that you're doing genuinely excite you and light you up. And that doesn't mean they're not difficult things or mentally stimulating things. So it's not always just, sitting on the beach drinking Corona. Sometimes it's mentally challenging things that you just love. So I would just make sure you're not confusing retirement with I really just want to break.
Correct.
And figure out which is which, because you can take some time off, but if you want to do like a permanent vacation, just recognize that it's not as great as it seems unless you have that next act lined up where you're going to focus on building some new skill sets, some capability, like you know exactly what you're going to do. Maybe like a lot of times people retire and they start another business.
Yeah.
Right? Like that happens a lot too. So like, oh, wait, you're retired and then you unretired? So just be able to differentiate the two. But it sounds like you enjoy what you're doing. And perhaps if you can't imagine a world where you're on the golf course every single day, then you need to figure out how you're going to spend your time. It should excite you. And if you can't figure that out, maybe hold off on the retirement.
All right. To close this out today with question number 3. Hi, Michael. I want to ask you something I've been thinking about a lot lately. If you could burn it all down and start something completely new tomorrow, would you? And what would you do? I've been having these thoughts lately, wondering if there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. Don't get me wrong, I love owning my own practice, but sometimes I seriously consider if I'm meant to be doing something totally different. Do you ever feel this way, and what would you do?
If I could burn it all down?
I know, these are all like super identity crisis.
I mean, look, first of all, why would I burn it all down? I mean, we spent 13 plus years building it to create something that I think is, meaningful and impactful, and we have, a great team, a great client community. So I don't know that I would burn it all down, first and foremost. So no, I probably wouldn't do that. But do I ever think about like other things that I could do? Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to be a video game designer. I want to write a screenplay. I want to write a children's book. Like there's all sorts of things that I want to do, but that doesn't involve, it doesn't necessarily require me to burn it all down. So yeah, I think there's, especially with ambitious people, you're going to have pursuits and things that you want to do. Like right now, I'm in the process of like a big physical challenge and getting ready for that. And that's, that's something that requires a lot of time and commitment, but that doesn't prevent me from being the CEO of Crisp and, and us growing the business. You got to be, what's the word? It's like, you got to have a little depth. You can't just be so,
can't just be a CEO.
Well, you gotta,
expand your horizons.
Expand your horizons. Like there's things that you enjoy. Like there was I had a little side quest. Was it last year, the year before? I was like, I want to be top 1% Call of Duty online competitive play, right? And then there was a period I was still doing it, but I was like, can I get 6 million steps a day? Or a year, over the year. Yeah, so that came out to, I think it was like 20 to 25,000 steps a day, which we crossed last year. So it's something new. I do think it's important to always have a goal and always have something that you're working towards, that you're expanding your capabilities in some way, whether you're learning something new, whether you're challenging yourself in some way, something that excites you, something you look forward to, like whatever that is, like it's hobbies, passions, etc. Not everything has to be monetized, right? Like there's things that you can do just because you enjoy them and it just brings you joy and fulfillment. Not everything has to make money. Not everything needs to have an ROI. That's what your firm is for.
Right. So
no, absolutely not. And now I think the more interesting question is like knowing what I know now, if I knew then what I know now, would I do it again? And I just think, thank goodness I didn't know then what I know now, because if I knew what an uphill climb it would be, absolutely not. I mean, what's his name? Jensen Huang who's this, the CEO of NVIDIA. They asked him this question and like, this is like $1 trillion company, multi-trillion. They're like, if you knew then what you know now, would you do it? And he said, absolutely not. Like if he knew, like he said, if he knew how, like at the time, just how much pain he would have to experience, how much struggle, how much sacrifice. Absolutely not. Like it's, I mean, thank goodness you don't know that. Just because as you're going through it, you don't really know what's next, and you kind of navigate it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, kind of 1 year at a time. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I've seen sometimes these posts on Reddit where they're like, oh, if you got transplanted back to like age, 30 or age 20, like what would you do different? And I'm like, look, I kind of like this life path. Short of like all the, the ways you can kind of like trick that question of saying, oh yeah, I'd place these bets, right? And I'd invest in Bitcoin because I know, I'd know all this stuff that, I'd be able to predict the future. But no, I don't look back with like any sort of regret. I don't know that, I want any sort of do-over. I like the way things went, and I'm very grateful for the struggle. So I would almost be a little disappointed if I got to wait back to my 20s and I'm like, oh man, I got to do this shit again.
Oh yeah.
Right? I got to, like, because then it's in your mind. You're like,
you know
how hard it's going to be, and just how many late nights, how many weekends, how much, just all the challenges associated with that. So I think a prevailing like thread that I've detected through these questions is just that maybe a good reframe is to really look at everything that you've experienced in the past as a building block towards everything that you could work towards in the future, as opposed to looking at it in the past and saying like, oh, should I change course? Should I start over? Like you could do whatever you want. Like that's the most amazing thing. You could like reinvent yourself whenever. You could start over whenever. Like that is, you're not too old. I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, 80 years old. Like it's amazing. Like with the world today, you can just get started. I even heard some quote. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that if you obsess over anything for I think a year or two straight, anything, any hobby, any venture, you could become top 5% in the world within a year or two. And this is only because, like, I know that sounds like wow, but let's say you're talking about like horseback riding or something like that. I was like, look, I don't really know anything about horseback riding, but imagine for like a year straight, I obsess over horseback riding. It would make sense that by the end of that year, I'd be in the top 5% of the world of horseback riding. I mean, so
very few people are
imagine
going
the
to
amount of progress that you can make in anything if you just were to obsess over it. So I don't know that things have to be binary of like, I stopped this to start this. Look, man, you get to decide the game you get to play. You get to decide the kind of life you get to live. And when all these rules exist of what you can and can't do, of like, if I do this, I can't do that. Like who said that you can't grow your law firm and pursue another hobby or passion of yours? Like, why does that have to be 30, 40 years off and saying, oh, I'll only do this afterwards?
Yeah, I always say that in so many situations. Both can be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the risk of sounding a little cheesy, I think you got to inject some play in your life. You got to inject some things, like whether it's like literal play, like playing some video games, right? Which I love and I enjoy, or just like experimentation. Not everything has to be so serious.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be so buttoned up. Listen, like, calm down, my friend here, right? Burn it all down. Like,
gotta live a little.
What are we talking about? Right? And sometimes you don't know where things will go. Like ironically, the whole Crisp started as play in the sense that I just bought a camera originally because I wanted to learn how to take pictures. And that became a photography company. And then eventually that photography company became a video company. And it was a video company in the nightlife and hospitality space, and then eventually moved into the corporate side. And then from corporate, we moved into services businesses. And then from services, we moved into legal. And here we are today. We've evolved from like a legal video company to a legal marketing company to a law firm coaching company to a recruiting company to like a holistic growth solution, all because this guy back in 2012 decides to buy a Canon Rebel TSI camera to learn how to take pictures of flowers and plants. So you never know where it's going to go. You see how I kind of brought it all together? Don't take it so seriously.
Yeah.
Don't burn it all down.
No. And with that, go be grateful.
Until next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.